Good morning everyone. I am Ira May Rubio, and today I will discuss on you the model that our group created that talks about communicative competence and multiliteracies. So before we go on the discussion, I will discuss on you first what is communicative competence. So communicative competence is the ability of the students to understand and use language appropriately and correctly to communicate in authentic situations. While multiliteracies is the terms comes from the two words multi and literacies that implies that the text is not the only way to communicate. So for effective language acquisition and learning to take place, language teachers must be guided by the 6 language teaching principles. So these principles explain the natural process of language development. So the first one is spiral progression. It is a learning a certain knowledge and stages, but that knowledge is when the students go to another stages has to be brought with the students in order to understand better on the other level of higher grade level with the higher thinking skills. So under the spiral progressions, we have the 3 major application. So the first one is understanding culture under in spiral progressions. So when the children grow up in different communities, the content change because they came from different places. So the second one is the integration using reading, viewing, and responding. So the students must be multilateral because if you are teaching English, we must apply in different subjects. And lastly, the third one is interaction, language. So learning will be situated in this context of communication, both oral and written. So example of this is interactions are role play, games, and many more. So also there are 3 types of interactions. So the first one is the teacher-student interactions. So the example of this is during discussion. And the second one is the student content interaction. Example of this is a student reading a book. And lastly, a students interaction, which is the example of this is debate. And the second one principle is what we call the interaction. So interaction is a language learning will be situated in the context of communication, both oral and written. So example of interaction is students interpret the picture, to read the module, watch the video, and after that, the students will be asked what they have learned from that video or modules. And the third is integration. So integration is the areas of language learning, the receptive skills, the productive skills, and the grammar, and also the vocabulary will be taught in an integrated way. So the teachers integrate discipline in a particular subject. The fourth principle is what we call the learner-centeredness. So learner-centeredness is learners are at the center of the teaching learning process. So teaching will be differentiated according to students' needs, abilities, and interests. So learner-centeredness example is if a particular course involves research, learners should be given choices of topic for research. So likewise, students can use lots of different mediums such as videos and other more. And also, we have a contextualization. Contextualization is a learning task and activities will be designed for learners to acquire the language in authentic and meaningful context of use. So for example, is lessons will be planned around learning outcomes, a theme, or a type of text to help learners use related language skills, grammatical purposes, audiences, and context and culture. So contextualization, example of this is students may be writing skills in the morning in an English course, and then by expected to apply them to writing an essay in a history class in the afternoon. And lastly, and the last principle is what we call the construction. So construction is a making meaning, is the heart of language learning and use. And also learning tasks and activities will be designed for learners in such a way that they will have time to reflect on and respond to ideas and informations. So learners will be provided with sufficient scaffolding so that they will be learners who are good consumers and constructors of meaning. So example of construction is give the students a story to read, and after that ask them to make their reflection paper on what they have learned. So also we have three major applications of the macro skills of the language. We have a understanding of cultures, understanding language, and the processes and strategies. So understanding cultures, it is a learner language through text, types, and literary appreciation exposes learners to different cultures of the world, including one's culture. And second is what we call the understanding language. So learners apply their knowledge of the systems of the language to assess them, to make meaning, and to create meaning. So they come to recognize the patterns and the rules of the language which emerge as they interact with a plethora of text to make meaning. And lastly, we have a process and strategies. So under the processes and strategies, learners select from a repertoire of processes and strategies by reflecting on their own understanding of the way language works for a variety of purposes in a range of contexts. So they deliberate on how they use language and apply different language strategies depending on their purpose, context, and audiences. So we have also a assessment in feedback. So you can see on the screen. So assessment in feedback determine whether the students understood or learned from the lessons, and the learning of the students, the learning and also the performance or something the score is the feedbacks. It is the feedbacks of the teachers if the students learn from them. So that is the end of our presentations, and I hope you have learned something from our discussion today. Thank you.